Thanks for tuning into the Sheet Metal Shaping podcast, where we discuss the pursuit of sheet metal shaping education through traditional coach building techniques. My guest today on the show, all the way from Utah, the man himself, Mr. Pete Watkins. What's up? How you doing?
What's happening?
Good.
Pretty good. How's things? Nice to see you as well.
So you're in Utah, but you're from SoCal. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I brought a little SoCal for you today. It's my SoCal coffee mug. I thought can you see
What
it?
is it? Oh, SoCal speak. Oh, yeah.
It's the only piece of SoCal I have up here in Canada. That's all I got, man. That's all I got.
I mean, you guys can't have the nice warm weather and everything like that, so I guess the coffee cup will have to do. It's warm.
Somebody said to me the other day that a pine tree is actually called a Canadian palm tree, and I was like, you know what? That's about as close as we get to a palm tree here in Canada. So I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
I've never heard that one.
I'll take what I can get, man. For the show today, we're going to talk all about the hired gun, being the hired gun of metal shaping, so to speak. That's you. I'm fired up.
That's me.
What is the hired gun? And before we get into that, who's Pete? Tell folks about yourself.
Hi, I'm Pete. I own Dexterous Engineering here in Salt Lake City. We specialize in sheet metal shaping and just automotive design and executing those designs through the art of metal shaping. Hence the reason why the company is called Dexterous Engineering, because it's all handmade engineering. I like words, so yeah, that's why I went with that.
I like it.
So yeah, the hired gun thing. I started doing that. Oh, well, I guess I'll give some background, if you will.
Yeah. Sure.
Started out my career, if you will, originally doing oil field work. I was a welder out in the oil fields and that type of stuff. Hated it. Hated being in the dirt. I like stick welding. Hated being out in the field. Hated that whole life. Left that. Got into fabrication and did special effects for a little bit down in Santa Clarita, and then ventured from there to the hot rod industry. I've always I grew up watching Overhauling and Rides and all those TV shows back in the day. Always wanted to do what those guys did on TV and be one of those guys on TV and everything like that. R.I.P. Motor Trend. And then, I got on with Hollywood Hot Rods as the first hot rod shop that I ever got into and got a job. I lasted 6 months. So that was great. And
they hired me somewhere else.
They canned me. I thought I was getting hired on as a fabricator. I got hired on as a mechanic / somewhat fabricator. And my knowledge prior to then of actually building cars was holding the flashlight for my dad and that type of stuff and changing brakes. It was very, very basic mechanical knowledge. It wasn't stuff like, hey, measure this for the drive shaft. I don't know how to do that. I mean, now I do, but back then I didn't. So that was quite the learning curve. And then, I left there and then went to Ironworks Speed and Custom for a couple years. And then went to SEMA in 2014, and I happened to meet Dave Kindig on a panel that he was speaking at. And we started talking after the panel was done and over with. He handed me his card, and then I came out to Salt Lake City to test at Kindig Design. And next thing I know, we jumped ship from California and moved out to Utah.
Yeah.
And we've been here since January of 2015.
That's awesome. Dave was on the show. He was a great guest. Talked about the 12 Air.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I love that guy. He's pretty much family to us.
Yeah. Hallie, for the listeners, Hallie is Pete's wife. Shout out to Hallie. Thanks for coordinating.
Yeah.
She's the best. She says all great things. You guys are super happy there.
Yeah. She loves it. I love it. It took me a while to actually appreciate Utah. Just I'm from SoCal.
We don't do snow in SoCal. Yeah.
Well, no. My parents' house is at 6,000 feet. We got snow.
10 Okay.
California is not all flat. There are mountains there.
It's true. Yeah.
But no, it was just that SoCal lifestyle is it's its own its own vibe. It's its own thing. And Utah just is not that. And so it took a while for me to actually feel like this place was home. And it wasn't until after I left Kindig and actually started the hired gun traveling gig that I actually like came to appreciate what Utah has to offer. And it's like getting off the plane after being gone for X amount of weeks and like walking out of the doors of the airport and looking around, just getting that just sense of relief of just, okay, I'm home. This is nice.
Yeah.
So
Utah's
pretty rad though.
Home being Utah or home being back in SoCal?
Home is Utah now.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So yeah, been here ever since and just planted our roots here and continue to grow. So
awesome. The shop behind you. Tell me a little bit about that. Is that that's not part of Kindig, that's your own? Yes.
Yeah. This is my own shop, Dexterous Engineering. I left Kindig in 2018 to pretty much expand Dexterous Engineering because it was always kind of a part-time thing that I started like 2014. More so in the motorcycle realm of things, like doing custom gas tanks and that type of stuff. And things were starting to pick up and I was focusing more on it and less on the work at Kindig itself. And so we just kind of agreed. And so I literally took the show on the road. I got a Pelican case, which is actually, sitting right there in that mess.
Yeah.
Now I have to reset my camera. I just got it set with this light.
That light bulb,
There we go. And figured out what tools are the basic tools that I use like every day in the shop. And so I put together a whole assortment of those and went on the road. And pretty much I kept on seeing a bunch of like friends constantly posting like now hiring, looking for work, like now hiring. And they have the clients, they have the work available in the shop, but they just don't have the workers. And so, and so it was one of those like see a need, fill a need type of thing. And so I pretty much set things up to just go out on the road for anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. And then come home for anywhere between, I would stay 2 to 3 weeks, but sometimes it was 1 week in between jobs. And I did that from September of 2018 until, well, I still do it off and on for certain shops, but 2020 was the official like end of the traveling circuit, if you will.
Yeah.
That was the straw that broke my back. I mean, the final job that I did in 2020 was 7 weeks at Hot Rods and Hobbies down at Signal Hill in California. And that was during COVID. And like 2020 was just rough in general for me. I mean, business was great. Like I was definitely busy, but it was just one of those, like I lived in my van for 5 weeks outside of the shop at Devious Customs because there were no hotels that were open. I was originally staying with my wife Hallie's grandparents who live in Colton, I think it is, right there next to Riverside. And it was the beginning of COVID. Nobody knew what was going on, so I didn't want to risk them getting sick.
Sure.
So I left their place and lived in my 66 Econoline for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Ran an extension cable out of the shop every night and took poor man showers in the bathroom at the shop. Learned the hard way that excuse me. Learned the hard way that those blue shop towels mixed with blue Dawn dish soap.
Dish soap, yeah.
It does turn your skin slightly blue.
Oh my God, you're a Smurf.
Yeah, I did. I actually, like full wipe down my whole body, and then all of a sudden looking at myself like, why am I turning blue?
Wow, dude,
so,
you were living the surf life, effectively.
Pretty much, yeah, I was.
And with a bag of hammers and dollies. That's cool. That's cool. What an experience.
So
I mean, the fact that you can tell that story, looking in reverse, cool experience.
yeah,
Story.
it was definitely an experience. Back then it was like, man, this sucks. Like, I'm cold. I just want to like just be comfortable right now.
Warm up. Yeah.
But I mean, it's those hard times, I guess, that kind of like just build character and everything like that, and just give you things to reflect on and chew on later on in life. Like, I'm always the type of person that I guess I self-reflect on a lot of things in my life. So that's definitely one of them.
Hallie wasn't coming to live with you in the van, huh? She was like, I'm not having this. No way.
I got Hallie to ride in that van, I think, twice.
Yeah.
And one time was because she wasn't sober.
So you're the DD.
I was the DD.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to drive her car. I was adamant on driving my van. I had that van for 6 years. It was my daily driver. And I mean, just in 2020, I did 8 trips in that thing between here and SoCal and back.
Wow.
So definitely did its job.
Yeah. So where did you take it from there? You finished up in the last project of 2020. What were you working on?
Let's see, at Hot Rods and Hobbies. What was I working on there?
Yeah.
Oh, we were doing a 56 Nomad. And I don't know what all I can say about it. It's a 56 Nomad.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Yeah.
It's a great car. It's gonna be a cool looking car. But yeah, but just the experience of just traveling and doing the hired gun thing, like that was an experience in and of itself. I got to be a part of some really fun builds.
Yeah.
I mean, right out the gate, the very first job that I had was at Mike Wagner's place.
Yeah. In Ohio.
And what's that?
In Ohio.
Yeah. And I came out to Mike's place.
He was episode number 1 actually of the show.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah. Good dude.
Yeah, he is. And went out to his place, and I actually helped him finish up the work on the Rouster Roadster. And then got to experience actually taking it out for its initial test drives and all that type of stuff. So, and then I went from there. I was at Saltworks Fab, helping with the Divco project. And then I was at Grind Hard Garage, Austin Weiss's shop over in Stuart, Florida. Let's see where else. I was in Aberdeen, South Dakota at Carl's Cycles, doing a whole bunch of like knucklehead parts, gas tanks and fenders. Where else? I did the last episode overhauling. Devious Customs, Hot Rods and Hobbies, Mackey's down in Huntington Beach, Fat Fender Garage. I know there's others that I can't remember right now. Man, Gene Winfield's.
Oh yeah, no way.
Yeah. I helped out at Gene's for a little bit in 2019. It was actually right after he got back from his accident overseas.
Wow. Man, you're well traveled. You've been all over.
That's part of the job, you know?
That's part of the gig. So hired gun, define that. In your Instagram handle, it says hired gun metal shaping. For anybody who doesn't quite understand what that means by now, if you don't, you're under a rock. But if you don't know what that means, what is the hired gun metal shaping?
Hired gun it's a term, I guess, is thrown around in the music industry. Hired guns are people who are brought in for a band that they act as like a filler for while a band is on tour. So they'll hire in somebody that plays a bass, and they'll bring them on tour and have them play bass for all their songs. And then when they're done with the tour, they go home and they go about their way. So I just kind of took that, again, I like words. So I just kind of took that wording and just applied it to my situation, to where like, I'll come in, I'll do what you need me to do, and then I go home. So that was my, like, some people gave me the nickname of like the Nomad Shaper. And that one was like, I felt too kind of gypsy with that term.
Too aimless. Where are we going here?
Yeah, exactly. So hired gun, I felt a bit more, I felt it resonated a bit more with my situation. So that's what I went with.
You seen that documentary on Netflix called Hired
That's
Gun?
actually where I got the idea.
It's a wicked documentary, right? Isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I love that documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, I love documentaries in general, but yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're on the road, you pack up your stuff. You said, okay, I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to try all these different shops. Did you know where you were going to go in advance? Or did you just go to one shop and then sort of put some marketing out there and then more people found out? Like, how did that organically happen?
Just exactly like that. Like I would, honestly, it was all done via Instagram.
Really?
Which is surprising because I don't have like a big following. Like I think right now I have 6,000 followers. And at the time, I think I only had like 2,000 or 2,500 or something like that. Like not that big. And it was all just via word of mouth and posts on Instagram and just hitting people up. Like I'd see them put a post out about like now hiring. And so then I would just hit them up and be like, well, I can come out. You can't hire me full time, but I'll come out and like help out for a few weeks if
Sure.
you want to work out some sort of deal.
Like plug the
And
holes in the bucket type of thing.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it kind of just worked out to where people were just like, oh yeah, we'll give it a shot. And one thing led to another.
Yeah.
So
how does it work for travel costs? Do you eat that or does somebody cover that when they hire you? How does that work?
yes, and pretty much. So like if a shop wanted me to come out, I would pretty much tell them like, look, if you want the skills, you got to pay for them. So they would have to pay for the flight. If it was on the East Coast or something, they would have to pay for the flight. I'd have to have some sort of vehicle to get around and a place to sleep. It didn't matter if it was like a couch in their house or a hotel. Like I wasn't picky about anything like that. I'll sleep on the fucking concrete if I have to. I'm not picky.
The only stipulation is no blue towels. That's the only stipulation.
Yeah, exactly. No blue towels.
Yeah.
And shit, I slept in the back seat of the car one night at Mike Wagner's shop because I got flooded at the shop. And I made the mistake of looking under the couch in the front showroom, and there was like a whole litter of spider webs and spiders underneath the couch. So I got wigged out. I'm not a spider guy. So I got wigged out and I slept in the back seat of the car. So, but no, as long as like that stuff was covered, they didn't have to pay for food because obviously I'm going to eat regardless. But as long as that was covered, then everything was good. And then with like shipping the Pelican case, I would just pay the overweight fee with the airlines. And depending on what airline, it was either $75 or it was $300.
Yeah.
And I would eat that. Just because they're my tools, it's my job, my responsibility, and it's a tax write-off, obviously. And so that's how everything went down for like the East Coast stuff. And then for West Coast, if it was like driving distance, I would drive. Unless it was like a job where they needed me there like tomorrow, then somebody would fly me out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would just drive my van, and they would just pay whatever the cost of fuel was.
Yeah. Did you ever get flown out urgent matter, getting called in like a surgeon? Like, we need you ASAP.
One time.
Yeah.
And that was for a job in Florida at Austin Weiss's.
Yep.
So yeah, I had to come back for like rushed 1 week job because we didn't know when the carrier was supposed to be picking up the vehicle to take it back to the owner and everything. And we had to finish out the roof on this 57 Suburban that we had pancaked the roof on.
Yeah.
And the front section, I'm like skipping all over the place. I'm sorry. The front section of the roof had collapsed on this thing after we had done all this work on the rear section. And so they cut out that front section while I was gone. And we're trying to get a new skin made. And we're struggling to get it made and get it put in time. And so I like hopped on the plane, did a red eye, got there at like 9 a.m. And I think I took like a little 2-hour nap. And because I didn't sleep on the plane at all. And then woke up, and then I think I did like 30 hours straight of just hammering out a roof skin and getting it tacked in and planished and welding it in. And then the rest of the week was spent getting all that just hammered out and fine tuned and finishing up a few other things on the truck.
Yeah. It's kind of that's cool, man. The fact that somebody can call you and you hop on a plane and be like, don't worry, I got you. Right. And you show up, you sort out the wrinkles. Like that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's how things were structured back then. Nowadays, I can't do things like that. Like I can't just drop things at the drop of a hat or anything like that anymore. That was prior to like us having like, we didn't have a kid then. I didn't have an actual like full size facility like this or anything like that. So it was easy for me to just hop and go.
What would you put in your Pelican case?
My basic hammer and dolly set, my air saw, my sander, my DA, my let's see, I gotta look through my toolbox here.
We're live on the fly. We're going through
exactly.
We're going through the drawers.
My body file, my bag of Clecos. Yeah, so this is the same bag of Clecos that I had from back in the day. You can see it's kind of
little painter's
like
tape, some green masking tape.
Yeah, so they come in these don't last up when you're on the road.
Yeah,
like they last about 5 days. This somehow has lasted all these years, and it only recently decided to tear open like this. But yeah, Clecos, an assortment of hammers that were like my favorite hammers. And then my Milwaukee drills and that type of stuff. And TSA would always like mess with my batteries.
Oh, really?
Like every time I would always get a little note. Sometimes I would leave little notes in there like, hey, don't rearrange all the stuff in this, please. Like, this is my livelihood and you'll ruin the foam in this package if you rearrange all this stuff. Because they would go through and like take the batteries out of my drills and then place them in there by themselves. And like, but it says online, like either put them in the thing or do it as a carry-on.
Yeah.
And every time it depended on what TSA guy I got. There was one time, it was actually that one trip that I did to Austin's. I didn't take the Pelican case. I just took my carry-on case, and I packed a little like Milwaukee tool bag full of just basic tools. And my Clecos were in there, so I wanted to make sure that my bag actually went through TSA.
Yeah, and they look like bullets or something, right? Who knows?
So the TSA agent actually like pulled the bag out, and he goes, "Are you traveling with bullets?" and I'm looking at it, I was like, no, they're Clecos. He's like, what's a Cleco? And so I started to reach, and he looked at me, and it was just like, can I show you how they work? And so he's like, yeah, go for it. So yeah, I did the whole thing of showing him how they worked and everything. And he's like, oh, okay, well, all right. I guess that'll pass, and put it back in the bag and close it up and went on my way.
Yeah, he probably had no idea what the hell you're talking. The Cleco, what's a sheet metal? What are you talking about, man?
I had to tell him that it was an aviation tool.
Yeah. So funny story about that. I brought the power hammer behind me. I brought it back from the States. It came from Pennsylvania. I pulled to the border. It was on my trailer, right? And the guy looks at the window, and he goes, "Anything to declare?" And he's kind of smirking, right? And I was like, "Yeah, I got a trailer of stuff." He goes, "Nice power hammer." This is the guy at the border. That's what he says to me. "Hey, nice power hammer." I'm like, oh my God. I said to him, dude, how did you know what that was? He's like, I know stuff. I'm like, okay, whoa. Nobody knows, like very, very few people, right, what these things do, what these things are. And he knew.
Yeah.
So interesting. TSA was kind of on your case.
Yeah. I mean, it always varied, like depending on where I was and what time of day. Like, you know, TSA is like, I don't know. I consider them like post office people, men in black. So
you got your box there. Do you ever have any damage? Like when the box goes from A to B, does everything come out as it should, or was there some questionable experiences?
Like my Pelican case?
Yeah.
I mean, stickers would get scratched up, but as far as like actual damage, the only thing that like ever actually got damaged was just like the layers of different foam that I had like cut out for all my tools to sit in perfectly. Like just TSA being TSA, they would just manhandle everything and just throw it all back in. So, but otherwise, no, like everything was usually good.
So everything's cut into the foam and it's got its own little space, so it doesn't move around the box.
Yeah.
Nice. So your hammers come out nicely polished, and your dollies aren't dinged up, and everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had like a little pocket for dollies, and then like, yeah. I would show you the foam, but it's all been since like disintegrated and everything over the years. So I had to toss it out a while ago.
Going to other shops, did you ever bump into a situation where you say, oh gosh, I really wish I had this tool, but I don't. So I have to either improvise or find someone else that has it locally. Did you ever bump into a situation like that?
Not, I mean, well, I guess at Jeans was the only time that I was like, I need this. Just because Jeans shop, like Gene has everything that you'd ever need. It's just, is it functioning and can you get to it because of all the other shit that's in the way? Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a shop or not, but it's like, it's one section is 3 2-car garages put next to each other, all like stacked up next to each other with a paint booth at the very end. And then another garage is 2 2-car garages stacked next to each other. And then around the corner, there's another, and it's like this whole assortment of different buildings.
Really?
And each one is just jam-packed full of all these things from over the years. And nothing was organized ever. And so it was just more the case of like trying to find stuff was the hard part. But as far as like searching, like wishing that I had certain things at different shops, I've always been the type of person that tries to like think outside the box and just critically think on a quick fix for whatever the situation is. And so if I didn't have something, I would try and just make something on the fly real fast just to get by for whatever it was that I needed it for.
Right.
Like I've made my own shrinking discs out of like body washers, like little mini shrinking discs. I think I actually have one sitting in here somewhere. But I used to have an actual like body washer, like grade 8 body washer, that I had like put little relief cuts into it to act as one of the sun chaser discs, and it just did little micro shrinks, and it actually worked really, really well.
What did you put it on? An air tool or something?
Just a pneumatic air tool.
That's awesome.
So I just put it on the arbor for my my cutoff wheel.
Yeah.
So
what does that do to your skill? So I mean, if you have to improvise on certain things, how do you feel that has probably improved your skills? Don't let me put words in your mouth, but what does that do to your skills over time?
I mean, I feel that it's developed just just quick thinking, being on your feet type of thing. Because that was always the case at Kindig. Like we'd always have Dave's extraordinary ideas that he'd come up with. And then when I was there, I mean, yeah, we had the powerhammer and we had the pullmax. But a lot of the other equipment was just very basic equipment. Like the planishing hammer, we had 3 dies. It was just some old, like, I think it was like an old Eastwood planishing hammer or something like that. And it was just your basic like air hammer bolted to the top.
Yeah.
And 3 different dies with the little post that you turn to adjust and everything like that. And like I would go through and kind of reshape the dies every so often just to clean them up, or like I'd have like there were 2 dies that were really close to their shape or to their crown, and so I took one of them and I just chucked it up in the lathe and like gave it a high crown. So then we had an actual high crown, medium crown, and low crown, and then learning how to actually run the planisher that way and just kind of run that gray area between the dies and find that perfect hit, if you will, between the different shapes and everything like that. It was always just get shit done and do it right and like get it on the card fucking yesterday.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I mean, if anybody on here has ever talked to Will or hung out with Will at Kindig, like you can understand like how he is, and then working with him in that work environment of just like, come on, let's get it done type of thing. And it's like that working there and being in that environment, it definitely taught me a lot of like just stressing the speed of things. Just because like back then we were doing anywhere between well, I think the episodes were like 10 or 12 episodes. And I think we were doing about, well, at least it felt like 6 to 8 full builds. Sometimes like it just depended. Like,
Yeah.
We were just pushing what should have been like 2 or 3 year builds. We were pushing them out the door in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it was just, and it wasn't that we weren't like shorting on quality. It was just that we weren't putting in 40 hours. Like it was one of those things that you were kind of expected to put in like 50, 60 hours. 40 hours was bare minimum.
Right.
And that's eventually why I left in 2018, is because like I was putting in my basic 40 and that was it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when you do a build like that, or when you're in that kind of a situation where TV and timing, and I mean, I'm sure timing is always an issue, but like, yeah, how do you make that balance between speed versus quality?
you learn it, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I fucked up plenty of time. I fucked up on national television.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I can't tell you how many people I've met over the years that they'll meet me and talk to me, and then they'll look at me and go, "You used to work for Dave?" Yeah. Are you the dude that did that hood? Yep, I'm that guy that did the hood. It was a 2013 Dodge Challenger, Mr. Norm's edition, 1 of 1 car. And it had a aluminum hood on it. The hood weighed like 13 pounds from the factory.
Wow.
And Dave wanted to modify the hood. And I think I spent a month and a half on this thing. I think it was like 21 or 22 gauge. This is almost a decade, like almost 10 years ago I did this. And so it was paper thin to begin with. It was hardened and tempered aluminum. And so anytime I went to go TIG weld any of the pieces back together, the welds would crack immediately. And then if I were to gas weld it, the panels would start to just warp and separate by the time I got the gas torch down close enough to actually do anything. Because we didn't exactly have the most proper like gas welding setup in the shop. So I was just working with what I had. And it was just constant, just back and forth, fighting this, fighting that, fighting this. Too much shape, not enough shape, and all sorts of different things. And so, yeah, they ended up not using it because there was micro fractures in various parts of the hood, and the body shop didn't feel comfortable like using it. Understandable.
Yeah.
I was kind of bitter at the time because of all the like blood, sweat, and tears I put into it.
Time into it, yeah.
But I had the privilege of hanging it up on the shop wall in the metal shop as a reminder to everybody of let's not ever do this again. That thing, what was it? Yeah, that thing sat on the wall above my toolbox for the rest of the time that I was there. It's still there today.
Is it really? Oh my gosh.
It is still there today. So, yes, I'm the guy that did the hood.
Big
and
takeaway?
That's what I'm known for.
Biggest takeaway from that? What is it?
There's a lot that I could say about it, but I won't go into details.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot that I would do different knowing what I know now. I'll say that.
You know, just in terms of the welding side, being a hardened, you said hardened aluminum or tempered aluminum or something? What'd you say?
Yeah. Yeah, hardened and tempered.
So with that type of material, specifically, just to the material, knowing what you know now, how would you adjust the welding process, or would you weld at all?
No, I would still weld, but like now actually understanding like filler metal versus base material and utilizing the bit like back then I was just using 40 41 40 filler wire. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I always get the like chromoly and mixed up. And so using that as a filler was probably what like did me in, honestly. Whereas looking back on it, I probably should have actually just used strips of the base material as the filler material. that way I wouldn't get anneal lines or anything like that, or I wouldn't have dissimilar material properties or anything like that. And I think that's what I was fighting the most. But
Interesting.
with the tempered part, it was just it it was hard. It like anytime you welded on it, it just did not want to give, and it just wanted to just retract itself and break those welds back apart. And
Yeah.
and it would be funny too, because like I'd get it welded and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I got it. And then I would forget to anneal the welds, and
Mm.
I'd go to hit it with a hammer, and all of a sudden just
Oh,
right back apart again. So then I have to like sand down all the material from the weld seam, get it back to material thickness, redo it, and it was just this just constant back and forth, and it was a pain in the
sure.
dick.
Wow. Wow. So after you left Kindig, you came back to your shop that you're in now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I ran my shop out of my garage for a while. Again, just doing motorcycle stuff for a long time. Excuse me. And then 2020 was when I got the keys to an actual shop space. And I moved out to the racetrack, UMC out in Tooele, and I had a little, like, what was it, 20 by 40 or something, like 20 by 30 shop space or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like a hallway, and I had to expand from that in 6 months. And so I moved into a next size bay that was like 2 buildings over from where I was at. And so now I had like a 40 by 60 or something like that. A lot more user friendly. I really liked the layout of that shop, and I really actually just liked being at that facility in general. It was just management. Management was real shitty at the racetrack. Anybody that's ever dealt with UMC knows what I'm talking about. But the experience being there was really cool. Like any given day, you'd have like Travis Pastrana just out there practicing for stuff for Pikes Peak, or the Hoonigan guys, or Ken Block, or anybody just doing whatever, or even what's his name, Justin Pollock, the Formula D driver, coming out and just practicing in the paddock. And so there was always stuff happening. I mean, it's a racetrack.
Yeah.
But we moved out of there February of last year, because of track management trying to pretty much take advantage of all of its tenants. So I joined up with a Porsche race team that was across the driveway from my shop, and we moved into a shop that's actually in Salt Lake City. So I'm actually a block and a half from Kindig Design.
Cool. Cool.
And so we have a 29,000 square foot facility. I have 4,000 square feet of that, and they have the rest. And they're a full blown Porsche race team that does everything from 356 restorations to trackside support on GT3 RSs.
Wow.
And cup cars and all in between there.
4,000 feet, man. That's big. It's good.
Yeah, it's pretty decent size.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a decent amount of space, open space behind me, so it's I've done the whole thing of like, there we go, of like working in super cramped shops. Not a big fan of it. I like actually being able to move around and open doors on vehicles, like both vehicles sitting next to each other, having doors wide open and still being able to walk through. And yeah.
How does your shop layout change for efficiency when you're working with big spaces versus small spaces?
A lot. I say that it changes it a lot. Because I was always so used to, like, I started out in a single bay garage. And so I was used to, like, I had a modified snap-on workbench that, like, when it was in the garage, it was only a certain size. And then once I expanded into a larger space, now I could expand that workbench. And so I modified it and made more tables, made different things, like pretty much more easily workable. Not so like tight fitting for everything. And when I moved into the 2-bay garage out at the racetrack, that's when I really started utilizing more of the like triangulated workspace techniques of like 10-foot, like the triangulated, what's it, kitchen space, 10 feet to any
Yeah. Fridge
tool
stove
in your,
dishwasher.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was great. But then when we moved into this other space, power versus where machines could fit and go, I tried to mimic the same setup as we had at the racetrack, but I also wanted things to look a certain way. So it's a little bit different layout than it was before, but it still works. So now we have like the actual like metal shaping fabrication area over here. And then this open space that's next to me here is for like quick in and out jobs. And then the rest of it is the row of vehicles that we have that we're working on back in that one alley.
Inventory, if you will, just
Yeah,
waiting
yeah,
to be
exactly.
chopped up. Yeah. But how does your hourly billable change if you're a hired gun versus being in studio or in shop?
A lot. And so, well, not too much nowadays, actually. Back in the day, it was different just because, like if I was traveling, I'd be working under someone else's overhead. So obviously I can't charge for like a full shop rate type of thing. I'm not using my space. Nowadays it's a little bit different just because like if I have to leave my space to go work in your space, I'm charging you what I'm missing out on here.
Right.
And so certain shops are kind of like they don't like that. And so, okay, fine, bye. Other shops, they understand it and they're willing to work with me on it. So it just depends, honestly. But I will say this: when I first started out, I was charging pretty much what like a high end employee would be charging. So I started out at like 35 an hour.
Yep.
And then over time, started going up and up and everything to where like my shop right now is 75 an hour. But and even that is low for like a shop rate. But I only charge that much just for the reason that like it's metal shaping. It's time consuming. It's a lot of time and patience that goes into this stuff. And we're not cave and pavers here. And like you're gonna pay for the quality, but you're not paying for it by the hour, so to speak. You're paying for it like over time.
Do you find working in the shop in terms of hourly billable? Do you ever get any pushback and have to say, look, we're going to spend more time here on the metal, but you're going to save it on the body shop? Is that sometimes a point of conversation, or that doesn't really play out?
It depends on the client.
Okay.
Some clients, like they understand. They know what's involved with this stuff and they're totally cool with it. Other clients, they nickel and dime you.
Yeah.
And you have to, that's where the whole like being a business owner comes in, and you have to kind of sell yourself of like, look, pay for it now. It's going to like pay for itself long term of the body shop not having to do as much work, and you won't have to worry about things long term. And I mean, we do things like I've always tried to do things to the point to where like not just thinking of stuff in the moment of like just putting pieces on just so that like they're on and done type of thing. Like, for instance, I'll go through, if I know it's an area that is prone to just moisture entrapment or anything like that. Like instead of just throwing on a panel and fixing that area, I'll go through and I'll seal the backside of the panel if I know it's not accessible for like if the vehicle's, because I don't know if a vehicle is going to get like epoxy primer or if it's going to get powder coated or anything like that. And so I'll take it the extra mile of like trying to just think long term and the longevity of what it is that I'm creating and putting on something so that it doesn't have to come back in 10, 15, 20 years because
it's open now. Deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and just trying to get people to understand that sometimes is not always the easiest. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. So,
as you reflect back on your career, knowing what you know now and looking back and, days gone by, was there people that got you up to speed? Were there mentors in your career or in your life that helped you along to get you to where you are now?
Oh yeah, totally. Like I would not be where I am today without the people that I've surrounded myself with. a big part of that is actually Hallie, my wife.
Mhm.
Like I would not be where I am today without her support. You know how she is. Like she's a firecracker for one, but she's amazing. She's helped keep me on track and just helped like uplift my spirits when shit got tough, and still gets tough from time to time and everything like that. But yeah, Hallie first and foremost. But there's been some mentors over the years. Let's see, had Ilya Popov from Gem Effects when I was doing special effects. He was a mentor for a long time. Um, got Andreas Smogi from Overhauling. To the like, he's a good friend to the point to where he's the godfather of my daughter.
Wow.
Um,
His artwork's beautiful.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, we met just randomly on the last episode of Overhauling, and we hit it off and became instant best friends. And he's helped me out a ton over the years, just mentally and everything like that, and just like trying to throw work my way every so often, and just being a good guy.
Mhm.
Let's see who else. Dave has definitely done a lot for me. Dare I say, Will Lockwood. I learned a lot from that dude. He's an interesting guy, but when it comes down to it, the dude knows what he's doing when it comes to swinging a hammer and moving metal around and everything like that. And just kind of learning the whole thing of just, I guess, if it doesn't move, get a bigger hammer. And yeah, there's a handful of others. Jeff Holt from Between Visionary, he's always been somebody that has helped me out, and I've looked to for countless things over the years. I guess most recently, Morgan Clark has been a good friend, good mentor for me, helped me do a lot of changes in my life lately. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's cool to hear as we wind down here. It's really cool to hear about the journey that you've had, but also too like the pure genuineness that you bring to whether it's in your shop or in somebody else's shop. I mean, being able to travel and go to someone else's facility, sleep in a van, bang out a roof skin, come back a couple weeks later, go somewhere else, do it all over again, go to Florida, go to Utah, go wherever, right?
Yeah.
And then saying, hey, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go home base now. I want to be a little bit more grounded. Going to open up the shop into 4,000 square feet. Like you've seen so much in a relatively short period of time. And I think that's super cool. So for me to you, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a ton of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find out more about you and what you're doing with Dexterous Engineering?
Social media is always good. Instagram is for the longest time, Instagram was like the main focal point and everything. I haven't been posting much, pretty much for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
After we had our kid, I kind of just lost interest in posting and fell in love with just being a dad and focusing on being a dad. So I just haven't been taking the time to actually like make content and post it. I've got tons of material with the 56 F100 that we did for Fat Fender Garage. I just haven't taken the time to edit anything. And so, but if you want to keep tabs, Dexterous Engineering or Dexterous ENG on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, and I'd say beginning of next year sometime, be starting to venture more into the YouTube realm of things, and putting out more content that way. And yeah, just seeing what comes with it. Just having fun.
Awesome. Good. Fun is the name of the game. Well, thanks for being on the Sheet Metal Shaping Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next episode.